Hello, I'm Ogutu Daudi.
And I'm Becky Katagaya.
And welcome to Fasi Fas, the show where we make way for women on this leadership path.
On the series, we'll be dealing with biases and barriers that stop women from getting into Uganda's top leadership positions.
And talking about how you and I can close this leadership gap.
On the show today, we are dealing with money in politics in Uganda.
And talking about how it can be a barrier to women who want to join the political space.
Joining us for the conversation today is feminist Penelope Sanyu.
And we have teacher and counselor Zaitun Kachama.
Also lawyer Nicholas Opio.
And journalist Jackie Kemigisa.
So without any further ado, let's
make way and make some noise. There's no scientific study on the full cost of becoming a member of parliament in Uganda.
However, the process alone of becoming a politician is expensive. For instance, nomination costs vary depending on the seat one is contesting for.
A quick glance reveals that presidential candidates each pay 20 million shillings, MP aspirants each pay 3 million shillings, candidates for city mayor pay 200,000 shillings, and candidates for district chairperson pay 200,000 shillings each, while candidates for municipality and city division mayor each pay 100,000 shillings.
A civil society group, Alliance for Campaign Finance Monitoring, tracked the 2016 presidential election campaign money allegedly spent by the aspirants. It showed that President Museveni spent 773 billion Ugandan shillings, much more than any of his contenders.
Maureen, the only woman and the candidate with the smallest budget, was forced to take a 2-week break from the campaign because it became costly for her to travel around the country.
Going by the numbers, money seems to be a big factor in joining the political race.
And for women, it is a seemingly bigger barrier to overcome, given that they still earn less than men. Is it fair to say that this particular thing is a hindrance for women getting into politics, the fact that they do not have money, and is basically politics just an expensive business and that makes it, well, excludes some people, so to speak? I'll start with Jackie, who's
Interesting. That's a very interesting question, though I think that when you talk about politics and money, I'm wondering in this country who has money. And that's a whole debate altogether. But when you talk about women representation and women venturing into politics per se, the issue of money comes up. I mean, our politics has been very much monetized by how much are you giving me, when are you giving it to me, and when it comes to who holds the largest chunk of money is men. So still, I think besides the whole fact that there's more women candidates go through than men, money is also one issue, and that I agree with you.
So how do we eliminate that? I mean, is it something that we can eliminate, or is it a factor of our politics that we just need to say, you know what, it's involved, and therefore we have to figure out how to work with it?
No, by eliminating it, we can eliminate men if we can start from there. Maybe.
No,
I'm just saying. He asked how can we do it. So that is the other. Eliminate and redistribute wealth.
Okay.
Basically, that's what I'm trying to say in other words. But if you ask for the short-term solution, I think that's where we would go.
Redistributing the wealth.
Yes.
Access to resources in this country, whether it is a loan, whether it is a loan shark giving you loan, they would require you to give securities. Because women don't have access to land, access to property. The vast majority, there are many other women who have access to land, but the vast majority don't have access to securities to secure financing, even from banks. We're talking about financial inclusion because women are excluded from the financial sector because they can't provide the security. A man would go and get a loan from a bank without being told to sign up, with both himself and his wife. For a woman, you might have to bring your husband to sign as well, to be sure to get access to money. So it's difficult for women to access resources because of those two and many other issues. Now, in the context of politics, the kind of things that you have to do, women now have to go and dance, while the man may not be required to dance as much. You must hire dancers, you must hire a band, you must hire the media. It is such an intense process. It's just sometimes very difficult for women to survive in that space.
Interesting sentiments. We wanted to know what you thought. Would you sell your belongings to fund a political career? We took to the streets to find out.
Guess I would.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I would.
Never.
Politics is a risk. It's a risk. You would either win or lose. Besides, in these countries, it's like business.
I wouldn't mind if I saw like my land, told me give the campaigning money, the campaigning funds, so that it can help me. Maybe when I go through, it will help me earn more income. When I reach there, I'll earn more income.
For starters, I would sell my property just as a starting point. Then maybe I'll get some sponsors to fund my political campaign, depending on my manifesto, whoever would be interested in helping me to better the society.
Naturally, I didn't sell my property. I'm not into politics.
I'd rather keep my property.
Absolutely not. I hate politics and I think I can live a happy life without politics.
Would you sell your belongings to, well, get into politics, get the money to fund your campaign? Interesting reactions from you. But let's hear from aspiring leaders. Would you, because it seems like that's the model that is there right now. You put up your land, you put up your property, you put up, to be able to fund a political campaign. Would you do that, or are there alternatives to this? I think I'll start with, with Penelope.
First, I think it's really unfair to us. You mentioned earlier that we all start out at the same level.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfair to assume that there's fairness there. It's not the same level. It's not. The things I have to go through as a woman to contest for the same position a man is contesting for are totally incomparable.
Oh, financially.
So, yes, even financially,
Yeah.
they're incomparable. Nicholas mentioned securities for getting finances. Now, if I have to sell property or buy property or even get a loan to contest for a position, I have to seek consent either from my father or my husband, or because it's not my property. I don't own property. Traditionally, women don't own property, and that's what we have pushed around. That's what we've thrown around. That's what people know. So if I have to get money to contest, and even from the very beginning, it's not a fair ground for me to get the finances, then what? Do I put my career on hold, or do I not become a politician because I don't have the things to get me there? Or do I push my husband or the other men around me, my friends, to go and represent all of us? Yay, we are all happy at the end of the day. So it's unfair from the onset.
In Islam, if I may speak, in the Islamic point of view, there are certain areas where it's really equal, especially our Creator looks at us as equal people, especially when it's time for worshiping Him. But when it goes to the, going in for the business, going in for the politics, it's for survival, for the fittest. So if it's the environment that we have in Uganda here, and there is this woman who wants to go in the politics of Uganda, she has to brace herself. If it's getting loans, if it is, because it is what is there and it is what you've chosen to go into. And there are certain things you can't change. You can't change where the sun is coming from. The politics of Uganda is so big for one person to change. So if you want to go into this politics of Uganda, you have to put on the suit of the person who is going into that politics that we have.
I like what you're saying. I like everything that you've said. So addressing the issue of money in politics, the income gap between men, women. We can say the women are disadvantaged because they don't have access to finances or they're not included financially. Men are better hustlers. So addressing that issue of money in politics, how do we level the ground for both men and women to have an equal playing field?
Well, I think that first, that's a false choice. I think the question must be, we must remove money from our politics and return to a point where politics is based on merits. Okay? The choice between whether you should use money or not, for me, it's just a false choice. I think we have to get to a point where we must have a debate about issue-based politics, inclusive politics, and begin to put systems and frameworks that take into account the historical disadvantaged status of women in order to ensure functional equality, because we cannot be the same, you know, functional equality, that we have equal access, we have better access for those who are more disadvantaged than those who are disadvantaged. If we get to that point, then for me, then that is the ideal place we should be in. It's not about money.
It's just politics, as in the way things work. You have to campaign, you have to do this, you have to do some PR, you have to. I don't think it's possible to play anything in this world without the influence of money. So isn't that just wishful thinking, so to speak?
That's a Puritan position, the position that there cannot be any money at all. And that's not the point that I'm making, that we cannot have elections because you have to print posters, right? You have to pay the media, you know, to cover your campaigns, whatever, you know, to pay for a talk show. So there's going to be some minimal expenses incurred in the process of election. The point that I'm making is that elections in and of themselves must not be about the money. The use of money must be restricted so that money doesn't become the basis for a decision. Rather, money is only useful for facilitating a process. If you bring people together, you buy for them lunch, okay? If you transport them from one place to the other, you know, you have to hire a car to transport them. That is the facilitative role of money, but get to a point where money is not the reason I vote for Guti or I vote for Jackie for that matter.
Well, we have to take a short break. We'll be back in just a bit. You are watching Fasi Fas.